Hello, welcome everyone. So thank you for joining this webinar on how AI vision makes retail and building smart. So how's everyone's doing today? I hope everyone's having a great day so far. I am Sarah from Tapway and I will be your MC for today's webinar. So for today's agenda, we will be talking about the trends on today's smart retail and building by AWS, followed by Tapway on AI vision and Tapway for smart retail and building. And we will be also having question and answer session by the end of the webinar. We will be talking about how you can transform your store and building into a smart, connected retail and building. Moreover, we will be highlighting how AI vision has the ability to improve service quality, reduce operating expenses, enhance business continuity, and also keep occupants safe and comfortable. So make sure to stay throughout the whole webinar as it will surely bring benefit to all of you. So before we deep dive into our discussions, I would like to cover a few housekeeping rules. So feel free to drop your questions at the chat box anytime during the presentations, as the questions will be brought up later during the question and answer sections. Other than that, today's webinar is also being recorded and will be posted in our YouTube channel. So we will provide you with both the link of access to the video and presentation slides after the webinar. And of course, you are welcome to revisit the content anytime needed and share it with your colleagues. So before we start, I would like to introduce our company, Tapway. We provide a platform to build, train, deploy, and also monitor AI vision technology solutions in physical spaces to help businesses to eliminate low-skilled manual labor, improve service quality and experience, and also enhance safety and security. We started from 2014, and we have over 30,000 sensors and cameras deployed by Tapway across all industries. We are continually striving to democratize AI vision and help businesses with three of our core competencies, which are IoT, AI vision, and big data. So before we move on to our first sessions, let's do a quick poll. So yeah, I would like to know how much have you transformed your retail and building with technology? So what do you think about this? You may have like 30 seconds to choose which is the most suitable for your business right now. So we're still gonna open the poll, so you may have time to pick your questions. And now I will be just introducing our first presenter. So we would like to hand the floor over to Sachin, the Principal IoT Partner Leader of AWS. So with the 19 years of experience in business development, strategy, product marketing, and product development in tech industry, Sachin now leads AWS IoT partnerships in APJ with consulting and technology partners across consumer, commercial, and public sectors. And also, prior to AWS, Sachin led partnerships for Amazon Alexa and has taken up various roles in other companies such as Microsoft, Samsung, Business Telecom, and Texas Instruments. So now I welcome Sachin to present your presentation. Sachin, you may unmute your microphone.
Yeah, I was saying thank you, Sarah, for that kind intro. Just wanted to confirm that my screen is visible now. Hello, Sarah?
Yes, clear, and we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session. I'll be starting off on high-level smart building trends where AWS has learned a lot from the customers in this space, as well as what we've learned from our partners that we work with, such as Tapway. So let's get straight into it. So as you can see, I think legacy buildings have always had some sort of smart features at a very use case level. For example, there might be a legacy building management system where you're connecting and getting some small inputs about how an HVAC may be monitoring. But over the past few years, we've seen now millions of live data points where whether it's a CCTV or a lighting control or an occupancy sensor, there is IoT everywhere, which brings in data and then combines with what partners and customers can build on top of that data to add value in these smart buildings, right? So let's start off with the trends. One of the important trends that we see is sustainability. Everyone is aware of different governments having carbon footprint goals. And so things like energy monitoring, waste management, and the likes is something we see prominence in. The next one is safety and productivity, especially with COVID coming in, right from doing simple things like thermal screening and increasing productivity within the buildings itself as employees come back into offices is one of the key focuses for smart buildings. The third one, all buildings have some sort of tenants, whether it's a bank or a retail shop, and there are, again, employees and visitors coming in. So a lot of the customers have goals around making these occupant experiences really great and making the environment more productive and healthy. This one is an interesting one. We are seeing demand, especially over the last, I would say, year or so, on digital twins, right? For those who are new to digital twin, this is just a replication of what is going on in a space or a building, but modeling that in front of your screen so that you can, one, run simulations, two, you can actually visualize better real time what is happening within your spaces. This one is around frictionless. A great example is, you have a camera which is wired. Typically in a smart home, you want the experience to be just frictionless. So a voice control, for example, that just works with one single app or one single platform is an example of a frictionless experience. And the last one, which is very core to any sort of edge or IoT use case, is edge connectivity. So having the ability to have the devices that are on the edge connect, whether it's in a get internet most of the time, and if it's not having an internet, how do you do certain types of edge processing? And then when it reconnects, having a good mechanism for the updates to happen and the data to flow. So that then brings us to what business outcomes customers look at within smart buildings. At a high level, these are a few of the ones that I captured. Creating new revenue sources is obviously is a no-brainer. We also have just digitizing the workplaces, being able to forecast demands, occupancy, and estimations. And IoT, AI, vision, and smart buildings can help with some of this. And finally, just using this data, this saving of manpower, resources to reduce costs, right? And increasing your ROI for a smart building development. And if we get to a little bit more quantification of the outcomes, we've seen energy usage being reduced by up to 40% and maintenance costs being reduced by 10 to 30% within the projects we've worked with. Occupancies in smart buildings are much higher, around 91%. We also see 18% rise in productivity. Real estate is where a lot of the expenses come in from an income statement perspective. And this is an area where even a slight amount of productivity increase goes a long way to keep this value add. And the last one is just if you run a survey, you'll find 60 to 70% of occupants are actually today willing to make their workplaces more environmentally responsible. So that also makes it easier for the property builders to build systems which keeps their occupants as well happy. So let's move into the trends we are seeing within the smart building itself, right? And the types of buildings we are seeing over the years. Level one is a very basic connected building, having a BMS, building management system, connected and just checking, is an HVAC on or off. The next one is intelligent building. So you go up a little bit more, you start getting more granular with the data you're trying to get, go into hard to reach places within a facility like a boiler or a chiller. You have IoT sensors, which then collect that data and pass it on. And you can have control signals now being sent back to some of these devices as well. Level 3, then you upgrade to what we call smart buildings in its true sense, right? So this is where the real power of AI/ML comes in, analytics comes in. You have use cases like predictive maintenance, air quality, hygiene monitoring, and digital twin, which I mentioned earlier, also falls into this bucket where you do some sort of 3D modeling of the building premise. And the last one, many customers or partners, I would say, are on this journey and are somewhere in this spectrum, right? Or eventually would aim to get here, which is really reducing manpower, where you automate a lot of use cases within the buildings. So the system now learns from the buildings, can predict, for example, what temperatures typically at a particular hour of the day you want to set it to based on historical data. And instead of someone manually doing it, you automatically enable that within the system itself, and you self-learn and self-correct. Now, I just wanted to show, I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but I thought it would be nice to just show a simple snapshot of what a smart building ecosystem today looks like, right? So if you start from the left side, we have the edge devices like an HVAC, lights, security cameras, occupancy sensors, and there are many more edge devices. You need to tap data from this, and that can either be sent, if you have a legacy BMS system, a lot of the property groups already have buildings in place. You can extract that data through the BMS systems or directly with a sensor placed on any of these edge devices to an edge gateway. And this edge gateway then will send that data back and forth to either an on-prem or cloud ecosystem or service, where, as you can see there, I've shown you some of the sort of features that AWS would be offering on the cloud that enables partners and customers to build on. So things like data ingestion, having command and control services, analytics and machine learning services, and then finally, visualization dashboards that you can build on. And on the right side is the facility manager, operations manager, field engineer having access to it. And at the top, you have third-party services. So the system also gets data from, weather, traffic systems or lease management systems, so that you can ingest that data and run analytics. So moving on to the use cases, at a very high level, right? We find data is a big enabler for this, because that's where the value comes in. You need to have information first before you can predict or run any sort of action. So that feeds into what we call smart physical systems, whether it's making an intelligent BMS system or just creating your own IP. The third is where the data comes in and you have real-time insights, you run your analytics. It creates a great occupant experience and then leads to sustainability goals as well. So what are these use cases, and probing a little bit more deeply? So energy management is, as I mentioned, a top use case. You have real-time energy reporting that facilities managers are looking at. People tracking and space utilization. This is an area where Tapway has a really great solution. So counting the flow of people coming into the entrances of premises, looking at what is the occupancy in a room. Third is smart occupant experiences. This is quite broad. You have smart meeting rooms, smart restrooms, smart appliances. Again, these examples that I'm giving are just a few, right? Just to give an idea of what this category is, but there are several use cases among each of these big categories. So health and safety, with COVID coming in, we have partners and customers building around body temperature screening, air quality monitoring, operational insights or asset tracking of HVACs, lights, etc., and predictive maintenance. Security, always important in buildings. We have video surveillance or things like smart access, smart locks and the likes. And lastly, as I mentioned, digital twin, right? 3D modeling or running real-time simulations without affecting the real scenario. Okay, so coming to smart building implementation and why it's so hard. So at a very high level, we have brownfield equipment or legacy devices that you need to connect to. And so you need to take care of different protocols and need a system that does that. Security and privacy is a big concern. Organizations also have a huge amount of quantity of data that they have, and they need to know how to leverage it. And finally, this is a new approach, right, which challenges traditional models and takes time to implement and see ROI on. And lastly, why AWS? The platforms that are built on AWS leverage a few features. One is we just have a lot of edge services that help our partners and customers build with unmatched experience that we have over the years. So things like free RTOS for silicon vendors or IoT Greengrass for OEM providers to integrate. We also focus on solutions versus just offering services. So while we provide services, we build purpose-built services. So a good example is IoT Twin Maker, which was launched late last year. And partners and customers can build on top of IoT Twin Maker, where certain modules modeling would be provided, and they can create digital twins from the IoT Twin Maker service. And the last one is around just the fact that we have a huge slew of partner offerings, including Tapway, that addresses and can help you as a customer and do the hard work of providing you a solution. And with that, I'd like to pass it on to Sarah and the Tapway team. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Sachin. It's really interesting how smart retail and buildings have developed into many trends today. So before we moving on to the second sessions, we'll have another quick poll. So since we have understood the development of smart retail and also smart building, what do you think is the top priority smart retail and building systems to implement? So yeah, we will have the poll questions open for you to answer. We'll also introduce our next speaker, which is Leo Wani Leo. Leo is the sales operation manager here in Tapway. So she leads sales operation initiatives, and then prior to handling business development and partnership for the past 2 years. With 5 years of experience with SaaS and IoT applications, she strategizes and aligns technology adoptions of clients to achieve maximum productivity with possible minimum cost of deployment. So now I hand over the floor to Leo.
Thanks, Sarah and Sachin, for the wonderful overview of stories of how AWS is empowering buildings and retails to be smarter with advanced technologies. Hi, good morning to everyone and to you. And thank you for joining us today. I hope you had a great week, and let's talk about why do we need to shift to smart building and retail in this constant change of customer behavior and the advancement of new technologies, especially technologies from AWS, which we are working closely with. Next. Right. Sorry, back to this previous slide. Yeah, previous. Yeah, all right, thanks. So the big question here is, why do we need to shift to smart retail and building? That is the key question. So retail stores and buildings are passive assets. What do I mean by passive assets? Typically, retail stores and buildings have little or even no connectivity to collect behavioral data, and therefore inflexible and unable to adapt to any changes. This approach is based on somewhat simplistic view of retail stores or buildings as an expense, which is a place just to do business. This is an outdated trend, and it does not recognize the potential of a building or a retail space to become more agile and flexible. Our retail stores and buildings need to continually learn and to adapt to needs that are constantly changing in our environment today. Next. So the shift needs to happen now. Businesses expect more from their retail stores and buildings. With the advancement in digitalization and technology, we are now seeing trends and rewards in data collection by analyzing them. There can be billions of connected devices installed throughout the world, collecting data that enable retails and buildings to communicate directly with the management team, the shoppers, maintenance team, and also tenants in the building. This is actually an effective method to give retail stores and buildings a voice of what is happening. It is also important to derive benefits from this connected data. The power of decision making is much easier when data is properly structured, analyzed, and put to work. Next. So you must be wondering, right, how to get started. How do I ensure the data that I collect is beneficial to my business or my customers? Firstly, of course, your needs and goal is important to be recognized. Why do you need your retail stores or building to be smarter? That's the first question that we basically ask our customers. Basically, all our goal to implement new technologies have certain drivers within our basic needs. The drivers could be, I want to understand my customers better, or how do I get to know my customers better? Motivators such as, how do I reduce costs and increase my revenue in every possible way if I were to implement a new technology in my retail store or building? AI vision is one of the pioneer technology implemented by most retailers and businesses to capture and analyze behavior of shoppers. AI vision combines sensors, software, and cloud technology to collect data on customer behavior, people flow and movement, number of shoppers, and shopper pattern around the store or the building. AI vision also provides valuable data for retailers and building owners to help making decisions easier with a data-driven mindset. Next. So let's talk about the benefits of AI vision. What type of data can help you make a smarter decision? So you can see on this dashboard on your screen right here, there is two different type of data that we are looking at, which is enter count trend, which helps you to understand shopper traffic in your retail store and building. The graph on the top left-hand corner shows a trend of enter count with red color denoting weekends and yellow for weekdays. With this data, you are able to anticipate the volume of shoppers according to days, and also to determine which day you can launch a special marketing campaign to drive more sales with the highest number of shopper traffic in your retail store and buildings. It is also important to know what's the volume of shopper traffic walking by your stores without entering, which is shown on the graph in the top right corner. So we can also have basic assumptions like the higher the shopper traffic you have, the higher the conversion rate of sales transactions. So this data is able to let you have a better insight of each retail stores that you own or each building that you own. Next, please. So let's look into another interesting graph of shopper traffic by implementing AI vision for retail and buildings. The number of shopper traffic by hour is shown for both enter count and walk by count, as you can see on the dashboard on your screen. Next, please. Right, so the graph shows a heat map of shopper traffic whereby the darker the color shows the higher number of shoppers entered or walked by the retail store. These two graphs shows an interesting trend whereby you can see in the box from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. there are high volume of walk by shopper traffic, but only 4 p.m. shows us the highest number of shoppers who have entered the store, which is on the left-hand side compared to the right-hand side. So the golden question here is, how do I capture the walk-by traffic or the walk-by shopper to enter my retail stores during these peak hours? In terms of driving revenue, it is a good chart to understand shopper behavior to target certain hours, which we call it peak hours of your retail store or building to run certain happy hour marketing campaign to drive sales. This is also a good chart for operations planning of headcount to operate in the retail store. Like, for example, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. during weekdays, you can have a minimum of 2 staff in the store. And during weekend, it is best to have at least minimum 5 staff in the store to cater for the higher shopper traffic. I hope you can have a better visualization of how AI vision data could help you for your retail store and building to be smarter in informing you when is the best time to drive more revenue and to reduce costs. So my colleague Arvin will be sharing more of interesting insights of how we collect other behavioral data through AI vision. So over to you, Sarah and Arvin.
All right. Thank you very much, Leo, for a great sharing session about the business opportunities of shifting to smart retail and building. I hope everyone can benefit a lot from what has been shared by Leo. And before our last speakers, let's have another quick poll. This time, we'd like to hear from you about what benefits are you trying to achieve for implementing smart technologies in your retail or building. We'll open the quick poll for you to answer while also introduce our last but not least speaker, Arwin, the cloud and data team lead of Tapway. He is a self-driven and motivated individual who enjoys everything about tech, especially cloud computing, data, and AI. He finds excitement in architecting and developing cloud-native applications with his agile teammates. So now, please welcome Arwin.
Thank you, Sarah, for the introduction. So, hey guys, good morning. I'm really excited to have all of you join us today. So, yeah, next slide, please. All right, let's get started. So, if Leo talked about, sort of why we should have, smart retail and building, I'm going to go into how it's, implemented and sort of the overview of, how smart retail and building looks like. So, while many people may have the assumption or perception that it's all about just having it smart within the building itself. Really, the way we offer the solution is that we provide an overall wholesome experience to customers, all the way from parking the cars or parking their cars, not just seamlessly but also securely, all the way to having a great experience in the stores and also helping retail stores to understand customer behaviors and things like that. So as you can see here on the left-hand side, you can see vehicle tracking and car park monitoring. So our solution is able to, say, capture the characteristics of the car, including vehicle class or vehicle type. In other words, like, for example, a car, truck, and things like that. And also, most importantly, a license plate, right? Which is what makes every car unique. And on the right-hand side, we can see the overall customer experience, all the way from walking by, entering the store, and that's when really, I think smart retail really shines because customers are in. So what next, right? So we have things like people counting, gender profile counting, adult versus child counting, things like real-time queue counting, and crowd control. So let's get into each of these solutions. Okay, so first of all, so this would be our flagship product, which is the People Track Vision people counting. So the way this works is really simple, right? So we would have the solution typically at entrances or exits, and we would count the number of people going a certain direction. So as you can see in this video here, this clip really, you can see that there are two directions. So one denoted by the orange arrow going up, at least from this view. So it's a top-down view. And the other direction going down, right, which is denoted by the blue arrow. So you may be wondering, like, how does this work, right? So really, it depends on the solution, the use case. But for this particular clip, you can see we have two zones over there: the green and the red rectangles. So take the orange direction as example. We have a person that's being tracked, moving from the green box to the red box. When that happens, we know that that person's actually moving in the orange direction. So it's pretty simple, and basically, if a proper sensor calibration and there's good lighting and all that, this can go up to an accuracy of 99%. And what are the use cases, right? So benefits of people counting, right? Say for example, the retail store would like to understand what the peak hours are, right? Typically, people may say, okay, sure, weekend, right? But we need to substantiate that with data. So with this kind of solution, retail store owners are able to confirm when the peak hours are for not only, generally speaking, like in the mall, but in their store particularly. And with that data, they'll be able to convert those data to assets, meaning, probably they'll understand when those peak hours are and capitalize on them to, say, sell certain products at a certain time. And of course, this can help them understand customer behavior. Okay, so moving on to the next one, which is on People Track Vision crowd control. So as its name suggests, really, it helps really organizations, not just retail stores, manage crowd level. So due to the pandemic, there may be requirements saying, hey, we wouldn't want, more than, 10 people in a certain room, due to, SOP and regulations. So this solution is real time. So meaning if, if say for a certain room, right, the threshold is set to 10, whenever that threshold is exceeded, an alert can be fired off, right? So it could be a sound alert, or it could be a light alert in terms of, a red light or something is shown in the clip over there. So there's that. So that's our dashboard being shown at the monitor. So yeah, so you can think about the benefits of crowd control, right? A crowd threshold that is, dynamically set. So that can be set by according to requirements, and the alert is done real time, and also helps with crowd level forecasting, provided historical data is kept in the backend. Okay, so yep. So I think Leo mentioned walk by earlier, right? So maybe, to extend on this really, so walk by counting is particularly important, say, when you want to understand things like, bounce rate, conversion rate, right? So in simple terms, maybe let's talk about conversion rate. Conversion rate is pretty much, say, when a customer or when a person walks by the store and ends up entering the store. So that's a conversion. Whereas a bounce rate, refers to, say, when a customer walks by the store and continues walking by. So yep, with this walk by counting solution that we offer, we're able to capture shoppers, walking by the store. And as you can see in the clip here, we would draw a line really at the entrance of the store. And we can track people basically not just in the store, but most importantly, outside the store. So benefits would include, of course, seeing things like, customer engagement, seeing how fast maybe they enter the store from the moment they walk by, and things like bounce rate and conversion rate, as mentioned, and also capitalizing on peak hours, right? So maybe if peak hours are of a certain time, right, you can see what is the walk by or bounce rate or conversion rate at a certain time too. Okay, so yeah, this is a pretty exciting one. So sometimes there are needs by retail stores to find out the demographics of customers visiting their stores. And we have this solution that can distinguish between adults versus child. So what this does really is, typically our solution does this based on height, but then there are also other logic, such as using facial recognition to sort of determine adult versus child. So why would retail stores want this feature? Of course, sometimes we want to understand if your products appeal to a certain age group. So you can have age groups defined from, say, kids are up to 18 years old, 18 to 20, 31 to 40, and so on, right? Say, for example, perhaps for some product, right, it has typically captured the attention of kids, and now you want to extend, the customer, right? You want to attract customers above 18 years old, to also buy into your products. So with this solution, you're able to tell if there was indeed that result from whatever improvement the retail stores made. And yep, so that's pretty much target optimization. And last but not least, we have real-time analytics. So if there's ever a need to see the count of adult versus child at a particular time, real-time analytics is also possible. Okay, so yeah, this really is related to the previous solution. So again, getting to know the demographics of the customers. So here we're able to tell, say, the shopper's profile in terms of whether they're male or female. And interestingly, also, if you see in the clip here, you can see it's rather small, but if you look at it carefully, you have the mask icon really sitting within the bubbles there. So that means that it's really an extension of the solution. It also provides details like whether the customer or the person is wearing a mask or not. So I think that's pretty exciting. So again, use cases are similar to that of the previous solution. It's about target optimization, right? Figuring out your demographics in terms of male, female, and we also provide real-time analytics for the solution. Okay, so people track vision queue counting. So we would like to emphasize that this is a real-time solution. Over here, as you can see in this particular example, we have a solution deployed to IKEA Gem in Singapore. And as you can see, as people walk into the queue, so really the queue is defined. As you can see, it has the floor has those little yellow circles. So that's where the queue really is. And yep, so basically as one person goes to the queue, the dashboard should show the count of 1. And as you can see, the TV display at the top left, you can see that there are 3 metrics, so 3 numbers. So they represent the queue count of each level. So really, this solution tracks number of people in the queue. And most importantly, if you have multiple queues distributed across the same level or across multiple levels, this can help customers make a decision, right? Where should I queue, right? So where's the shortest queue? Maybe I would like to queue there, to save some time. So basically, there's that. But of course, with this real-time solution, we can extend this to sort of to keep those data and use those historical data to do things like queue level forecasting, right? And because, say, for example, you've had data, weekend data about the queue count, you can then make a forecast for example, weekends to come and things like that. Okay, so a big part of making this solution a successful one is understanding sort of the layout of the store, right? Not just the queue layout, but also the counter layout. So typically, when there's a queue in the store, that will lead to the counters where customers would check out. And in this particular example on this slide, these counters are actually self-checkout counters. So meaning, customers are able to actually, pay for the stuff, cashlessly and by themselves, really, without much assistance from the store. So as you can see at the top, the queue layout. So really, we have the overflow zone, which just means, sometimes the queue could extend way over the main queue zone. So that could be taken into account if there's such a requirement. But of course, the main queue zone is what matters the most because, that's typically where people queue up. And also, we have the checkout counters in the small blue boxes at the top there. And at the bottom, as you can see, there's that MIDI display at the top middle, right? So that actually shows the counter layout. And as you can see, as the lady actually moves away from the first counter, which is at the top right, we start to recommend counter 1 is being recommended. So these are just basically examples of layouts and how it may look like in the store requiring this solution. Okay, so these are some demo videos regarding queue counting. So at the top, we have the queue counting demo video. So as you can see, this is at a particular level. So we have basically people walking into the queue, and you can see that the count is being reflected on the dashboard at the left. So yeah, basically the number of people within the zone really is represented by the little colorful bubbles. So that's really the view that we get on the UI page. And then as for the bottom, there will be an example of the counter recommendation dashboard and also the live view. So here we can see that counter 1 is currently occupied and hence counter 2 is recommended. So in this particular case, we recommend the nearest counter to the queue. So there are various logics that can be implemented for this solution. Sometimes customers may want to recommend the counter that has been available for the longest time. Sometimes they want to recommend the nearest counter to the queue. So that's so both are feasible for this solution. Okay, so moving on to vehicle track access control, right? So this may look a little different from the previous solutions because if previously we talked about people track, right, and all that, but suddenly it's vehicle track. So let's go back to that first slide overview that we talked about earlier. So basically, we want to provide an overall complete customer experience, right, all the way from parking to shopping and then going back to the parking lot. So we have a solution called vehicle track access control, which enables highly secure multi-factor vehicle recognition. So this can help to basically provide a seamless and also secure experience to customers getting in and out of the premise. So maybe multi-factor here can require a bit of explanation. So think about how sometimes you need to use a Google Authenticator, for example, to access your app. So not only are you putting your password, you're also putting in like a 6-digit code in order to get access to your app. So similarly, for this solution, we can use multiple characteristics to identify a vehicle. So on top of, say, license plate number, we also make use of things like vehicle type, vehicle color, and vehicle brand to really make sure that car is yours and not someone else's. So use cases of this solution would be to automate entry and exit. So this can be done seamlessly, via identification, via vision. And also with this, we could go cashless if wanted. So we could possibly integrate with existing payment systems, or even, in order to make this happen. And last but not least, of course, thanks to this multi-factor authentication or vehicle recognition, we're able to hopefully enhance the car park security even further. So yep, this clip really shows our existing solution for vehicle classification, also license plate recognition. So basically, as trucks come in, we make real-time recognition of the license plate numbers. All right, so I think that's really it. So just to wrap up this session, really, my part really is that, for people track vision, it's not just about making smart retail, making retail smart within the building itself, but we would like to see this as, overall a complete customer experience all the way from parking the cars, getting in and out of the premise, and also, yeah, basically that whole experience is what we would like to see. So that's it for me. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Arwin, for sharing on the AI vision solutions for smart retail and building that Tapway has developed over the years. So now we have gained a lot of insights from our speakers. Let's have our last poll sessions. This time we'd like to know what has been the biggest challenge in running a smart retail or building so far? So yeah, while answering the poll, we can move on to our last session, which is question and answer session. So I open the floor to those who have any questions for our speaker. Can just type it on the Q&A box here on the Zoom. And then there is also a QR code at the bottom of your screen. And if you can spend a bit of your time to provide us a bit of your feedback. And you may also click the link on the chat box right here. So let's see on our question and answer box question. The speakers may unmute and also open the camera for us to answer. Okay. So let's check the questions here. First, we have a question from anonymous attendee. I have a question. Can we use our existing CCTV for Tapway analytics? I believe Arwin would like to answer this.
Sure, Sarah. Yeah, thanks for the question. So the question is, can you use existing CCTV for Tapway analytics, right?
Yes.
Okay, so for this one, actually, yeah, that's a good question because we actually integrate solutions that we actually, or products that we are, that we are used to, that we actually have been integrating with our backend. So I would say no, unless the CCTV has certain AI capabilities or certain counting capabilities or tracking capabilities that we can integrate with the backend. Yeah, but typically, we work with the products that we are most used to and familiar with. Yeah.
All right. I hope that
I can add on a bit regarding Arvin's answer. So CCTV, so it depends on what type of CCTV that we are looking at, because we have analog CCTV. So analog is a big no-no because it does not have any capabilities to do any analytics. So we would rather look into IP cameras, which is a CCTV based. Yeah, so recommend our customers and also to upgrade your cameras. It's time to do it now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Leo and Arwin. I hope that answers your questions. So next, we would like to have hear from Farhana Kamal. What is the accuracy level of the people counting solution? Leo and Arwin can take this.
Yeah, I can take it up. Yes. So what's the accuracy level of the people counting solution? So this, this has its own caveats, of course, things like, surrounding lighting, the sensor calibration, and, depending on the use case also. But in terms of what we can offer an accuracy of up to 99%, provided, the layout of the building is, optimal for the solution, things like the sensors have been calibrated correctly, and, customer patterns, customer walking patterns have been identified. properly. So it's 99%.
All right. Okay. So 99% it is. And I hope that answered your questions, Farhana. Next, we have question from Fefan Young. How do you ensure high accuracy for LPR? Some countries do not have standardized fonts for license plate. Arvin, you might want to take this.
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, for LPR, in other words, license plate recognition, for those who don't know it, yes, we understand that some countries don't have standardized fonts, and in fact, that's what we're currently working on. So we're extending our vehicle track solution to overseas, actually. So as of now, we specialize in Malaysian license plate numbers, and even within Malaysia itself, there are actually non-standardized fonts out there, things like closed characters, and even some random fonts that people choose to have on the cars. So this is a challenge, definitely, but we do have solutions for it in terms of the AI or machine learning part. So things like adding more data set more sample images for those non-standardized fonts, and also things like tweaking hyperparameters for the model training could also help. Ultimately, we do need to test it out, and for different countries, we do need to revisit the model and retrain when necessary with new data set.
All right, thank you, Arvin. I hope that answered your question as well. So we have another question from Hamdan Ashari. Hi, Sarah. I have a question to Sachin and Arvin. Actually, Bambang is my name. So actually, we already enabled your microphone, so you may speak and ask the question directly to Sachin and Arvin.
Okay, Sarah, thank you very much. Sorry, I use my staff name. Actually, Bambang is my name. First question is to Sachin. Sachin, we are planning, my customer is planning to install the water meter sensor in the IoT base. And we are proposing a LoRaWAN. But I have a question is for the case of apartment, how about the best way to put the location of the gateway? We understand the gateway is covering about 2 or 3 kilometers in diameter. So how about the location of the gateway in the case of the apartment? That is for Sachin. For Arvin, okay, one by one, or can I?
Yeah, maybe I just answer the question if they're different.
Yes,
upfront. Yeah, I think for one, this is a slightly technical question. So we can.
This is LoRaWAN, yeah. Okay, thank you.
You said LoRaWAN, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
correct. So we do have, in fact, even with AWS, we have our own IoT for LoRaWAN service, and we also have partners who work on LoRaWAN. The water meter use case is also an area where we do have partners that help our customers to manage both, water leakages as well as water treatments and all sorts of water use cases. To answer the exact question around where the gateway device is to be placed, I think that's going to need a little bit of technical overview and understanding of, what the layout is. It could be, is the connectivity strong in specific places? Depends on the specific device as to how many, sensors can the edge gateway manage. And like you rightfully said, right, if you have multiple floors and properties, where exactly the water sensor is going to be placed in the pipe. So
I mean, specific in the apartment case, is it a gateway located in each floor, or how you approach it?
Yeah, so I think this is a technical question which I'll probably have to address later. We can talk to our solutions architects, or you can Sarah can connect you offline with me, and we can take this question there.
Okay, thank you. Next question to Arvin. We have 3 questions actually to you. Is number one is how you, to decide the number of CCTV camera inside the store, for example, right? How many camera is installed in a certain square of the store, for instance? That is one question. The second is, Arvin, how to identify the age, the age of the customer for the male or female is easy, but for the age. And the third, the INPR in the vehicle tracking. do you have any experience if the quality of the plate number is very poor? Like in Indonesia, the quality, most of the quality truck and the buses is very poor. Do you have any experience? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the questions. Yeah, I probably need Leo's input also in terms of the camera count in the store. So I'll get Leo's input soon there. So I'll answer first in terms of how many cameras or or sensors should you have in the store. So again, this really depends on the kind of products we work with, the kind of camera brand that we work with, because they all have different capabilities. Especially in terms of say tracking, right? Sometimes some cameras or sensors are able to track from a very close distance or from a very far distance, and some fail at a certain distance. So that has to be taken into account. So that's one. Also the use case, of course, right? Maybe, for example, if the use case is real time rather than historical, then maybe you want to make sure that the tracking is done really, really well. And that means that, probably if you have multiple sensors, working with each other, right, to detect, say, people in a huge zone, then you want to have more of those sensors. But I think ultimately it depends on the use case and also the capability of the camera that we work with. So perhaps Leo, do you have any input on this?
Yep. So thanks, Pak Bambang, for your question. Very good question, actually, because most of our customers ask the same as well. So how do we determine is actually the first rule of thumb that we look at is the height of the ceiling to determine the height of the ceiling and the width of the entrance for people counting. Secondly is, of course, our steps with our customers is usually we will ask for a floor plan of the environment. Then we will have our engineers and our SC to do calculation on how many numbers of cameras needed. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Arvin. How about the
course, yeah.
how to determine the age, the old?
Right. Right. So I think there are a few creative ways to approach this, but typically there are two ways that can be done. So number one is you can identify age based on height, and yes, this might be contradictory, to certain age groups, but in the sense that the average, we have an idea of, say, the average height of a certain age. So height can be used as a determinant, and the other one is also things like based on facial recognition. So that's also a possibility that can be incorporated to determine age. Maybe Leo, do you have any input on this?
Yep. So for age, we also use height as a determination. So for example, any height that we detected less than 100 cm, we categorize it as a child rather than an adult. So anyone that is detected that is have a height of more than 100 cm, we can categorize that as adult. So bear in mind this 100 cm that I mentioned is also flexible. It's up to our client how they want to determine the height. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Seeing the last question, Arvin.
All right, so the last question. So just to reiterate your question, so you mentioned that sometimes the license plate quality can be very poor, right?
Yes.
So I think this includes like visibility. This includes broken plate numbers, and perhaps little contrast between the font and also the background. So yes, we have encountered such an issue because sometimes you cannot help it, right? Sometimes drivers they just they don't have the license plate well maintained. So as a result, especially I think what we noticed was trucks especially typically have license plate numbers that are less visible because probably they go through rough terrains and very dusty terrains, and that sort of clouds the LP. So I think your question is more to how we can tackle this, right?
Yes, please.
Right. So interestingly, for broken plate numbers, of course, it depends on how broken it is, and our model is able to somehow predict that the right LP. Say, for example, it's it doesn't happen to a really bad degree. So that's one. So I think it depends on how the model has been trained to be resilient against those cases. But of course, there are limitations, right? When it's so broken, for example, if you can just see I on the plate number, even the model fails to we'll take that as an I if it was a K before, for example. And in terms of poor visibility, that is something that we need to optimize in terms of camera settings. So we need to play around with things like contrast, brightness, and even things like HLC. Basically going to the camera settings and making sure that they're able to cater for what you call less than optimal lighting conditions. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Because you mentioned before, its accuracy is 99%. It might be that based on the Malaysia or based on the European quality of the plate number. But okay, thank you very much for answering.
Yeah, there'll be 99% for vehicle classification. Yeah, specifically.
Okay, Sarah, go back to you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Pak Bambang, for your questions. I hope Arwin, Sachin, and Leo has helped to answer the questions. So let's look at the chat box. There's a question from Russell. Can we use the footfall data to motivate our staff by aligning footfall data with their commission theme? I think Leo may take this question.
Yes, thanks Russell for the question, a very good one. So usually footfall data, what we look at is the higher the traffic, like I mentioned, the higher the traffic, we will assume the higher of sales conversion that you have. Of course, we can use this as a motivation factor to staff or even a marketing team to drive more different campaigns according to the days. So like, for example, Arvin also mentioned peak hours. So if you know like your peak hours or your peak days are weekends, so probably the marketing team can do some different happy hour or even a special discount on these 2 days to drive more traffic and drive more sales. I hope that answers the question.
All right, thank you, Leo. So let's go to the question and answer box again. There's a question on how do you see the optimization of data within buildings in a post-pandemic world? Maybe Sachin, would you like to answer this?
Yeah, sure, I can take that. I'll try to answer it in a slightly different way based on what we're seeing in terms of the use cases, right? So obviously it varies whether you're using a connected camera use case and data is coming in versus the data needed to monitor energy. But what we find is from even the best practices right around this data, it's not about just connecting all the data and sensors. We faced many customers who just connect sensors, get data out, and then are trying to figure out what to do with that data. And I think your question is around the optimization of that. So what I would recommend is looking at specific use cases and working with partners, or if you can build it yourself, coming up with a specific solution that one addresses a niche use case, but then as you scale, so for example, you have 2 floors that you want to implement occupancy sensors, right? You have a certain amount of data coming in. You don't want to be investing in a huge amount of storage or compute when your use case doesn't require that much of data. But you should work with a solution or service, and that's where AWS comes in, right? We allow scaling of use cases, scaling of the amount of data and the amount of sensors that connect onto our cloud services through partners like Tapway. So I think it's important to one, recognize which solution you want to go after. And secondly, also investing in the analytics behind it. So I think this is Tapway solution is a perfect example of how AI vision drives value from that data. And I think for an example here also is, you don't need to stream huge amounts of data in real time. You can maybe just take snapshots of the images in limited frequency. So you optimize and limit the amount of data that you have, but that's sufficient for you to run the analytics for your use case, right? So given the limited time, I would just say, hopefully that helps.
All right. Thank you, Sachin. We have another question. Are hardware cost more than cloud cost? Anyone want to take this? Leo?
Yeah, I'll take this up.
Okay.
Okay, so regarding this again, it really depends, right? So what Leo said earlier, it depends on say the store layout. Depending on that, say typically a bigger store requires more hardware, typically, and you can see it as a one-time cost for the hardware, if anything, right? So it's set up and it's there, and once it's there, it should continue to work, provided there's maintenance work being done and all that. Whereas for cloud cost, it's more of like a continuous cost. So because the solution is hosted in the cloud, typically. So in other words, I feel like we can't quite quantify, which is more than which. But if you see pretty much in the long term, probably cloud cost is going to exceed hardware cost. Within the short term, the hardware cost should exceed that of cloud cost. So yeah, so maybe Leo, you have some input on this.
Yep, I agree with Arvin. So basically, software is always cheaper in the long run, and hardware is a one-time off cost. So you can think of hardware as a capex cost and software as the opex cost. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Arvin and Leo. We have come to the last questions. Who is your current customer for LPR solutions in Malaysia and overseas? Arvin, you may want to take this one.
Sure. Yeah. So that will be Plus Malaysia. So yeah, really, we offer license plate recognition and also things even like vehicle classification to them. So we work closely with them basically to make customer experience better and more seamless. Yeah. And yeah, in terms of the scale of the project, maybe we'll give you an idea on that. So currently we have the vehicle track solution deployed to over 70 plazas in the, I believe, NKVE highway. So basically what that means is that as we speak right now, we're actually making license plate recognition and sending those data over to Plus.
All right, thank you, Arvin. I hope that answered the questions as well. So I think we don't have any more questions. So we have come to the end of the webinar session then. So thank you everyone who joined us today. Thank you very much, Sachin, Leo, and Arvin for sharing your insight and expertise. We will be sharing the link of this webinar to you with our for the recorded one, and then we will also be sharing our new exclusive People Track Vision white paper for you to understand more on your customer journey with AI Vision. So please keep on our email after this. Well, we'll be sharing all the content and also the presentations to you. So before we leave, we hope you can spend about 5 minutes to scan the QR code here and fill in our feedback form for today's webinar to allow us to make further improvement in the future. And if you do have an additional question and would like to connect with us, please go ahead and email us at sales@gotapway.com or visit our website at www.gotapway.com. So thank you everyone for your time. Stay safe and have a wonderful day. See you next time.